good morning to you guys. Welcome back. Nice to see everyone. Good morning. Welcome to everyone online as well. We're going to be starting with meditation like we do each morning. We'll do chanting and breathing mindfulness meditation. I'm not going to give you guys guidance this morning because I'm helping you guys to transition more and more to be standing up on your own 2 feet where you're not dependent on a teacher's guidance, and that's going to help you guys to ensure that you're not attached to the guidance. So I'm just going to do the chanting, and then you guys do your own meditation like we did a couple of days ago, and then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and that's where I'll start today's class. We're going to be learning what is Kamma and how does it affect me. I'm going to be teaching you the 4 types of Kamma and how to eliminate and extinguish your unwholesome Kamma. Then we're going to take our mid-morning break, and I'm going to share with you guys the topic of what is merit and continued support on the path to enlightenment, because our course is kind of coming to a close and you're going to need continued support beyond this course. Then after lunch, I'm going to share with you guys how to integrate the teachings into your day-to-day life, and we'll do an activity together so you guys will see what that is. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'm going to start with the chanting, and then you guys do your meditation where you just focus on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. And then of course you guys have lying meditation, you have standing meditation, you have walking meditation. It's really up to you, whatever you would like to do. Okay? Sabaka meditation. So if this felt like, wow, this was a real stretch, then you know where you're at. And if you feel like, wow, that seemed like it went by pretty quick, like, wow, now you know you can meditate for 30 minutes because that's what you like to gradually build up to. So this is a meditation that you would like to be integrating into your day-to-day life. 2 to 3 times a day for 30 minutes is what you would like to build up to, and then be able to maintain that consistently over multiple months and years. That's what's going to help you along with all the other teachings of the Buddha. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if you guys have any questions on meditation, because oftentimes students are building up their meditation practice. I like to give you guys an opportunity to ask any and all questions that you like about meditation, because we've been doing meditation now throughout the week. So do you guys have any questions before we get started with our topics today about meditation? Anything you'd like to ask about your practice?
Is working at this. My question is about
It's still on. Yeah, it's on. It's just the signal's gonna cut out every once in a while.
Yes. So when we are breathing, and I hear myself telling myself like inhale, exhale, like these are words, right? Is it possible not to think words? Is it where I need to get to? Because I feel like I'm still focusing on something and I cannot get off that because I do not know how to focus without thinking words, if it makes sense.
Yeah. Ultimately, you would like to eliminate that. But if that's where you're at right now, then that's where you're at right now. But over time, you would like to eliminate that, where your mind can just be completely quieted and stilled. But that's going to take many years to build up to that. It's not going to be just in 3 or 4 days. Can you get a microphone that way? People online can hear you.
Yesterday I was asking about what is possible counting during the meditation, and today I didn't count, but my brain created some pictures, like I saw like a blue sky, and I didn't think about like anything, but I saw like clouds, like it's come and go, but it was like a picture. Yeah, so it's possible, like, or
you're going to see your mind's very creative with all these kinds of things. It's going to want to do everything other than just sit there and focus on the breath, right? And that's where you've got to be able to bring it back and bring it back. Don't sit there and indulge in those kinds of things, but that's what the mind's going to want to do. So don't allow it to do that. Just keep coming back to the breath, because your mind is like a wild animal. It wants to run around in the forest and go here and go there and go there, and you're like, no, we're going to tame you. Come over here. I need to discipline you. I need to be able to control you. And the mind's like, no, you're not. I'm going over here. I'm going to look at some clouds for a while. So that's where you got to be able to not get conditioned pleasant feelings with those things. Cut it off, let it go. Don't allow the mind to indulge in it, and bring the mind back to the breath. That way you're going to gain control over the mind. Because in your day-to-day life, like I was mentioning yesterday, when you're angry and stressed and feeling guilt or shame or fear, you don't have control over the mind in that situation. So that's what you're doing as part of your practice, is you're building your ability to have control of the mind. And you won't get to that if you allow the mind to indulge in those kinds of things. But just understand it will do those things for a while, for a very long time, before the mind just becomes quieted and stilled. It's not until you get to enlightenment where the mind is completely still and quieted throughout your meditation. You still have thoughts every once in a while, but it's not until your mind's actually enlightened that you'll have long periods of quietness and stillness. And obviously those will increase as you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment. But you'll have these kinds of things that happen. So just know that they're normal, and just don't allow the mind to indulge in it, because otherwise you won't be able to control the mind and it won't be disciplined. Okay. Other questions here? Let me see if we have anything online. Good morning to everyone online as well. Let's see here. Okay, I don't see any questions online. Okay, so what we're going to do is move into this topic of what is Kamma and how does it affect me. Everything that Buddha taught in one way or another is coming back to this natural law of Kamma. When we talk about awakening the mind, that's what you're doing, is you're cultivating wisdom about this natural law. extinguish all your unwholesome karma. So first, let's just talk generally about this. What is karma? It's a natural law that exists and that is functioning at all times in every moment, and it's affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. Everything the Buddha taught in one way or another is coming back to this natural law of Kamma. It's based in this natural law. The natural law of Kamma simply is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. You might think of it like a sequence of events. Right? Every being is being affected by this natural law, whether you're aware of it or not. And there's no being that oversees this natural law. It's not like it's punishments and rewards, or who's at fault, or who's to blame. It's nothing mystical or magical. This is a natural law that is just, there are certain decisions that you make that lead to certain results. And when you make decisions wisely, you will experience certain results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience certain results. Oftentimes people think that what they're experiencing in day-to-day life is good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or they think it's God or some entity called the universe, or they think it's other people that are causing them to experience certain things. But in reality, what's going on is this natural law of Kamma. This is always there, just like the natural law of gravity is affecting you whether you're aware of it or not, and you never believed in the natural law of gravity. It's the same thing here, that this natural law is affecting you whether you're aware of it or not, and it's important not to believe in it. But you can see the truth for yourself of this cause and effect relationship of how you make decisions, and it produces certain results for you. Because when you don't understand this natural law, you'll tend to go out into the world, make unwise decisions, and you will experience unwholesome results. So yesterday we were talking about craving, anger, and ignorance, or that unknowing of true reality. This is what the unenlightened mind has that unknowing of true reality about, that it doesn't understand this natural law. So therefore, an individual will go out into the world making decisions about how they interact with others, and it's producing all kinds of unwholesome results for them. So it's not a system of punishments or rewards, or who's to blame, or who's at fault, or anything like that. It's nothing mystical or magical. Purely, it's cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's your life, your decisions, and your results. And as I was sharing yesterday, this is very empowering, because once you understand this natural law and you're navigating it through wise decision making, if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care about and you would prefer not to happen, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if an individual continues to go around thinking that what they're experiencing is good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or if it's God or some entity called the universe, or if it's other people that are causing you to experience certain things, then you're stuck. You're locked in. You can't change anything about your life. And this is not true reality. And this would be a very defeating way to walk through life, because you would just feel stuck. But you can be empowered through understanding that what you experience is a result of the decisions you're making, and now make wise decisions as you learn this natural law. And if there's anything you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life and you would prefer not to happen, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. So by understanding this natural law, you'll be able to accomplish that. So just some things from the Buddha on the natural law of Kamma. In this book series of 13 books, there's one book that's devoted to the natural law of Kamma, going and sharing with you all kinds of details about that. But we could really say the entire book series is about the natural law of Kamma, because everything the Buddha taught in one way or another is coming back to this. So this is just two important teachings related to the natural law of Kamma that you need to know at this point in order to be able to approach it and understand it. But just understand that everything that the Buddha taught in one way or another is coming back to this natural law. So this is just two teachings specifically about 2 points that I need to illustrate for you at this point. The Buddha says, beings are the owners of their Kamma, the heirs of their Kamma. They have Kamma as their origin, Kamma as their relative, Kamma as their resort. Whatever they do, wholesome or unwholesome, they are its heirs. What he's saying here is that you're the only one that can produce Kamma for you. Sometimes you might hear people say, oh, give me some of that good Kamma that you have, or don't rub your bad Kamma off on me, right? This is impossible. It's not like there's some mystical thing around. It's not like a black cloud following you around. I've heard some people talk about Kamma like it's a bank account that you're making deposits into, and then if you do a lot of good things, experiencing. And that's what the Buddha is saying here in this first teaching. Then he says, the results of Kamma, I say, is threefold, to be experienced in this very life, in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. I know many of you guys probably haven't independently verified the cycle of rebirth yet, but that is something that you can get to at some point in your journey to enlightenment. But if you understand that the Buddha taught the cycle of rebirth, and that ultimately, if you've seen enough truth in his teachings, you'll see that he didn't just slip the cycle of rebirth into his teachings. He's teaching it for a reason. That if you see all this truth in his teachings and how it's working, eventually as you get to the point where you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth, you'll know that this is true with 100% certainty. But what he's saying here in this particular teaching is that you can't run and hide from your karma. Any decisions that you make, you're going to experience that, either in this life, the next life, or some future life beyond that. You can't run and hide from your karma. So with these two teachings, where you understand everything that you are deciding is what's producing your karma. Nobody else can produce it for you. It's your decisions that is producing karma, and you can't run and hide from that karma. Well, the next thing is, well, when you learn as much about this natural law as possible, right? Because you're not interested in continuing to stumble and trip over your feet and experience unwholesome karma. So I'm going to teach you the 4 types of karma: wholesome karma and unwholesome karma, old karma and new karma. And I'm going to give you examples so you understand. So wholesome karma is produced anytime you're making decisions that is harmless. Unwholesome karma is any decisions you make that is harmful. Now, you guys learned in the Four Noble Truths that you can't cause someone else to be discontent, and nobody can cause you to be discontent. It's your own craving, desire, attachment that's causing that. But you can cause someone harm. Causing someone harm is to cause harm to their material possessions, their physical body, their reputation, things like that. You can cause harm. Right? So you could steal someone's material possessions, you could damage it or destroy it, or you could hurt someone's physical body, or you could damage someone's reputation. Whenever you're causing harm and you're putting out harm, that harm is going to come back to you. That's why it's so important to understand what is a living being, so that you're not causing any harm to any living beings. And that's why the Buddha taught to have the intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because anytime you put out harm, harm is going to come back to you. Right? So whenever you're making harmless decisions, it's going to produce wholesome karma. So like right now, you're sitting here just listening to someone talk. You're just sitting in one spot, just listening. You're not causing any harm to any beings whatsoever right now. That's why there's no harm coming to you. But if you were to start poking the person in the eyes that's sitting next to you, there's going to be some harm that comes to you, because you're causing harm. You're causing harm to that person's physical body, right? So now there's going to be harm that comes to you. That's the natural law of Kamma. You can see it very clearly, very simply, right? Then there's old Kamma and there's new Kamma. What old Kamma is any decisions that you've made in the past that you're experiencing the results of now in the present moment. And then any decisions you're making now in the present moment that you're going to experience the results of in the future, that's your new Kamma. So let me give you some examples of this. Let's just say 3 years ago, I filled out some tax forms to report to the government my income, and I'm supposed to pay taxes on this. Let's just say I lied 3 years ago, right? And now 3 years later, I get a notice in the mail that says you owe us $3,000. It's $1,000 for the initial amount, $1,000 penalty, and $1,000 interest. Whoa, this is old, unwholesome karma, because I made an unwise decision in the past, and now I'm experiencing the results of that. This is old, unwholesome karma. And now in the present moment, I have some decisions to make, because now in the present moment, I'm going to produce new karma that I'm going to experience in the future. Well, if I didn't know these teachings of the Buddha and I didn't understand the Eightfold Path, I might rip up that letter and throw it away, try to run and hide from it. Or I might call up the government or write them a letter and be bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, start yelling at them, hollering them, accusing them of making mistakes, telling them that, no, I didn't do this, right? Now I'm producing more unwholesome karma. So I'm producing new unwholesome karma that I'm going to have to deal with in the future, right? But if you understand these teachings, and you understand your goal is to extinguish your unwholesome karma, this old unwholesome karma that's coming back to you, I need to extinguish it. I need to bury it in the sand. So knowing these teachings, I'm interested in producing new wholesome karma. So to produce new wholesome karma, I need to extinguish this old unwholesome karma. So what I would do in this situation is I would call up the government or send them a letter, make apologies, say I'm so sorry for this oversight. I would like to make amends. I would like to solve this. I would be very polite, kind, friendly, respectful. And now, having done so, what I would share with them is I would say, I really don't have $3,000. I would like to pay this for you, but I really don't have that. And they would say, oh, well, you've been so polite with us, sir. I tell you what, we'll drop off the penalty. We'll drop off the interest. How about you just pay us $1,000? And I said, wow, I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind of you. But I don't even have $1,000. Is there something else that we can do? Well, actually, we can work out a payment plan. How about that? Maybe you give us $50 or $100 every month over the next several months, and that'll take care of this. Oh, perfect. Right now we've come to this conclusion. Whereas if I was just bitter and harsh and hostile with them, they're not going to be interested to do that with me. Or if I ripped up the letter and tried to throw it away, that's not going to solve it. Right? So you need to be able to extinguish this old unwholesome karma by producing new wholesome karma. And by understanding the Eightfold Path, that's what's going to help you to do this. Okay, so you've got wholesome karma based in harmless decisions. You've got unwholesome karma that is based in harmful decisions. Then you've got old karma, which is decisions you made in the past that is now coming back to you in the present moment, and you're experiencing the results of those. And then in the present moment, any decisions you're making, that's going to produce new karma. So if you could snap your fingers today and instantly practice the teachings of the Buddha perfectly, which you can, but even if you couldn't, you're going to still experience old unwholesome karma because you've made some unwise decisions in the past, and those things are going to come back to you. You have to experience those. You can't get to enlightenment without extinguishing all your unwholesome karma. So you're going to experience this unwholesome karma coming back to you. So let's talk about some more about how this unwholesome karma is being produced and how wholesome karma is being produced, because it's connected to something I was teaching you yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. The three unwholesome roots are craving, anger, and ignorance. And whenever you're making decisions through the unwholesome roots, it's producing unwholesome karma. So when you make decisions through craving is your selfish desires, the mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. The mind is longing, yearning. Whenever you're making decisions through that, it's going to produce unwholesome karma for you. Whenever you're making decisions through anger, hostility, bitterness, the hatred, the frustration, the agitation, the annoyance, when you're making decisions through that, it's going to produce unwholesome karma. And then when you're making decisions through that ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the confusion and misunderstanding about how the world truly works, you're going to actually experience unwholesome karma. Right? So whether it's an individual decision that you're making or even global conflict, when we see wars and things like this that are occurring, it's coming from craving, anger, and ignorance. The mind says, hey, I want that land, give me that land. That's craving right there. The mind's longing here to give me your land. And then the other side says, no, I'm not going to give you my land. And now the person who has the craving, their anger is arising. I want that land, you're not giving me my land, I want that land. Okay, I'm going to send in some soldiers to kill you guys, right? I'm going to try to kill you guys. Now the mind's trying to fear these other people into giving me what I want, which is this craving trying to get fulfilled. The mind's trying to get this craving fulfilled. And now where that's coming from is the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, not understanding that killing in order to try to get what you want isn't going to produce wholesome results, right? So even global conflict like wars is coming from craving, anger, and ignorance. So craving, anger, and ignorance is producing all unwholesome karma. But then the wholesome roots are going to produce wholesome karma, where you practice generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, where generosity is the exact opposite of craving, is, let me share with you. Let me live open-handedly. Let me give you things in order to help you without any expectation of anything in return. It's just the opposite. It will produce wholesome karma. Then loving kindness is just the opposite of the anger, hatred, and ill will. The bitterness and hostility. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, without judgment, active goodwill towards others. Whenever you're making decisions through that, it's going to produce wholesome karma or wholesome results. Then wisdom is the exact opposite of ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. Whenever you're making decisions through the wisdom, that's what's going to produce wholesome results. And that's why you're not interested in believing any of these teachings. You need to get to wisdom so that you know the truth. And now, knowing the truth about how the world's truly constructed and all these natural laws, you can make wise decisions based on those natural laws. So it's generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom that's going to produce wholesome results or wholesome karma for you. Okay? So any questions on wholesome karma, unwholesome karma, old karma, or new karma? There is karma as an individual, but then when you're in a group, individual decisions are leading to a karma that we're all experiencing, but it still comes down to individual decisions. So for example, since we're talking about global conflict, if a population of people, like a country, elects a certain leader, and now that leader is making decisions on behalf of all of these people, now we're experiencing karma based on who we elected as a leader, but it still came down to individual decisions, right? Because also you're deciding to continue to live in that place, right? So it still comes down to your own individual decisions. But yeah, as a group of people, we can experience a certain amount of karma, or certain results from our collective decisions.
Do you think for some people it's difficult for them to accept the guidelines because the Dharma principle doesn't always works immediately? For example, in today's world, there are lots of nice people, always even Western people, so they are still living in a miserable life in their whole life. So would you explain this phenomenon?
I think your question to me is why is it that people don't understand karma? Is that your question?
Because, when people see other people, for example, their neighbors or their, friends, they are good people in their daily life, but they don't have a very good life to live. Yeah. So how do you explain this?
So what's happening is you're just seeing a small portion of that person's life. Right? You're not seeing the totality of every decision that they've made throughout their life. So what you see of that person is you see them making what you're referring to as good decisions, but you're not seeing 100% of every decision that they've ever made. So when you are seeing this person who maybe you're seeing 1% of their life, and now you're seeing these unwholesome things coming back to them, you're not seeing all the other 99% of the decisions that they're making that are leading to those unwholesome results. So an individual will lack wisdom of this natural law, and they will look at somebody else's life and they can't see the karma 100%, because you can't see somebody else's karma 100%, because you don't see 100% of the decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis. But if you look at this natural law of Kamma very closely, you won't be interested in believing in it, but you'll be able to see the truth for yourself. And that's why I give you guys really simple examples here, so you can see it on a simple level. But in a little bit, I'm going to give you more details and even examples from my life, so you can see the natural law of Kamma more clearly. And everything that I've been teaching up to this point with the Eightfold Path and the 5 precepts and all these other things are helping you to be able to see the natural law of Kamma, like killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, taking substances that cause heedlessness. Yesterday, when we talked about the 5 precepts, that's helping you to be able to see the natural law of Kamma really clearly, and then you need to be able to see it for your own life, where you'll see it in some cases for other people's lives, but you won't see 100% of it. If you watch the news with an understanding of the natural law of Kamma, you'll look at it completely different than you did beforehand, where you can news is it's a daily reporting of the karma, of what's happening. You'll see that one politician stand up and they'll start gossiping and slandering somebody. 3, 4, 5 days later, someone will get up and gossip and slander them. Right? It's just like this cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect is happening all day long. And the more that you understand it, you'll be able to see it very clearly. But you won't be able to see other people's karma 100% because you're not with them and seeing all the decisions that they're making. So it's important not to base your understanding of karma based on what other people experience. But you need to be able to see it within your own life. And that's what will bring your mind to understanding this natural law. Yes, ma'am.
How about natural disasters or accidents of a big scale? Is it still Kamma or is it just impermanent?
Yeah, it's still the natural law of Kamma. Everything that's happening in life is the natural law of Kamma. There's nothing that happens without the natural law of Kamma. But remember, it's not punishments or rewards. It's a sequence of events, right? So let's just say that I'm sitting at a traffic light and somebody hits me from the back, right, and hits into the car. Well, there was a sequence of events that happened there, right? Maybe somebody wasn't paying attention to their driving, they were looking at their phone, or maybe they didn't maintain their car and their brakes weren't working, or some other thing like that. Me sitting at that traffic light, there was a sequence of events that led to this. It's not punishments or rewards, it's a sequence of events. And no matter how enlightened you are, you're still going to experience 5 things. You're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. You can't eliminate those. So even let's say, what was it, about 6 months ago? Yeah, 8 months ago. I got into a motorbike accident 8 months ago. And a lot of the students that were studying with me, they considered me to be enlightened. I never told them that I was enlightened. And part of getting to enlightenment is that you've extinguished all your unwholesome karma. You never experience unwholesome karma any longer. But when people hear when I say you'll never experience unwholesome karma, people think that, oh, that means nothing's ever going to happen to you. Everything's happening your way. That's not true. You're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. So when I got in this motorbike accident, there was 1 or 2 students who were like, isn't this unwholesome karma? I thought you were enlightened. And at first I said, well, I never said that I was enlightened. That's your decision that you're saying that. But nonetheless, you're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. You need to be able to look at the situation and figure out if there's any unwise decisions that you made that led to that particular situation. In this situation where I experienced this accident, it was Kamma, it was a sequence of events, but it wasn't any unwise decisions that I made on my side that produced that. Because I looked at it very closely and I could see there was no unwise decisions that I made. So you need to be able to look at each individual situation very closely so that you can know whether it's wholesome or unwholesome karma, and if you've made any unwise decisions along the way. But natural disasters, accidents, all these things, it is karma, it is a sequence of events, and you need to be able to look at the decisions that have been made that led to that. So like all the storms, all the turbulent weather that we experience right now, this can be traced back to human decisions about how we're interacting with the environment, right? And the decisions that we're making in terms of the pollution of the environment, and this is now leading to a lot more natural disasters, right? Or we're encroaching on the sea, on the shore, right? And now we're building all these buildings around the sea, and now when there's a tsunami or there's a hurricane or a typhoon, these houses are getting destroyed. There was a sequence of events that led to that, right? Or if somebody's swimming in the ocean and they get attacked by a shark, right? Well, that was a sequence of events, right? Like, this is the shark's territory. This is where the shark lives. We made a choice to go into the water, and now we're experiencing the results of our decisions that we chose to go into the shark's territory. So it's not punishments or rewards, but it's a sequence of events that is occurring. You're welcome. It's sometimes difficult to is, obviously don't very openness when it comes to wisdom. There's a reason why you don't expand it a little bit from the bottom. And I would say what I think it is. It's the knowledge about the natural laws. Like knowledge of. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. So do you need more information than that? Yeah, that's what wisdom is. It's understanding the natural laws and how the world truly works, rather than making decisions based on a lack of wisdom or ignorance or unknowing of true reality. So, for example, one of the things the mind does in the United States is it clings to its perceptions. The perceptions is your views and opinions about the world, your assumptions. So one of the things you learn on the path to enlightenment is how unwise it is to cling to your perceptions. And you learn to not make decisions based on perceptions. And now when you know that, you'll navigate the world, making sure that you ask questions and get clarity before you do any particular thing. And one of the examples I give about this is if you're training to be a police officer, they teach you not to cling to your perceptions because you're making life and death decisions, and you can very easily make an unwise decision and find yourself on a murder charge as a police officer. So like if a police officer was being dispatched to a convenience store and they're saying, hey, there's a robbery at this convenience store, we need you to go take care of it. So now, of course, the police officer's lights and siren is running to the convenience store, shows up to the convenience store, maybe slings the door open, and now they see somebody in a black hoodie with a gun, and they're standing over somebody who's laying on the ground, and this person's been shot, and they're bleeding out. Well, if a police officer clings to the perceptions, they might just walk into the convenience store, pull out their gun, and start shooting the person in the hoodie. But they might have actually just shot an innocent person. That could actually be the cashier. The cashier might have managed to get the gun out of the person's hand, and now they actually shot the robber, and they're laying on the ground. So police officers are taught not to cling to their perceptions. They're taught to walk in, pull their gun, and say, police, put down your gun, police, put down your gun. Because if you're the person who's the cashier, and you're holding the gun, it's like, oh, thank goodness the police are here. Let me put down my gun, right? But if you're the person who's the robber and you see the police, you're going to turn potentially and point the gun at the police officer, and now that's when you're going to get shot and killed, right? So what you learn as part of the wisdom of the path to enlightenment is so many details like this. And one of those that I'm just using as an example here is not clinging to your perceptions, right? That's your views and opinions. That whenever you're going to make a decision, you make sure you ask questions and you get to the point where you understand fully the situation. And because that's the only way that you're going to be able to make wise decisions. In order to get to enlightenment, you need to extinguish all your unwholesome karma. But as long as you're making decisions based in ignorance, you can't extinguish your unwholesome karma because you're still making unwise decisions based on your perceptions rather than truth. But if you can get to truth, now you can make wiser decisions. So there's certain natural laws that you need to understand in the Buddha's teaching of all those things so that now you can navigate the world in a more peaceful way. So an easy way to say this is what I already said, which is the wisdom is to understand the natural laws and make decisions through that. But at a more detailed level, it's what we were talking about yesterday. The three universal truths, the four noble truths, the eightfold path, the five precepts, the natural law of Kamma, all these different teachings that you're learning, the 10 fetters. You need to learn all these different teachings. That's the wisdom that you're cultivating, and you won't believe any of that stuff. And that's what's going to lead to the mind awakening, and now making decisions through that wisdom is what's going to produce wholesome karma for you. When we make decisions without that wisdom, we'll produce unwholesome karma. Because, for example, let's just say we think that it's other people who are causing us to be angry. Right? That's a lack of wisdom, because our mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. We think other people are causing us to be angry in the enlightened state. So now when you experience anger, one of the things that an individual does because of their craving or ignorance is they'll be very harsh and hostile to that person. And now they just produce unwholesome karma because they damaged their relationship. Right? But if you understand the wisdom of the Four Noble Truths, you understand that, hey, to make sure you're making decisions always based on these natural laws. But the thing is between now and enlightenment, your mind's not yet fully awake, so you don't know all the natural laws. So you are right now still producing unwholesome karma for yourself, because your mind is not yet fully awake to that wisdom that you need to fully make 100% wise decisions. So while you're gradually bringing down your craving, anger, and ignorance over the course of your journey to enlightenment, and you're gradually increasing your generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, you're still got craving, anger, and ignorance in your mind. So even though you're decreasing it and you're working to make less and less decisions through that, you are still making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance even now. And now you're trying to do that less and less and less through training the mind. And that's what's ultimately going to get to an inflection point where your wholesome karma is more than your unwholesome karma. Yeah, question.
What about, I was always curious about people who live in country where they don't have any choice, like for example, like North Korea, like people, like the government very strict with them, they don't have any choice, like if they will escape the country, right, the government will kill all family, like, or like for example, other example about people from Pakistan or Afghanistan, the rules super strict, they don't have any freedom, and like they don't have any choice. It doesn't mean they have this. It's like about all countries, so many people right? And it doesn't mean they have old karma, or people they have old karma and now they pay for that, or how it works and what they can do, like when they under the press.
I didn't hear your first example. Can you?
It's about North Korea when they people like living about under the press, they don't have any choice, right? Like
say again. I didn't understand you hearing the accent really quick. North Korea was okay. So everybody has choices. We all have free will. Even the people in North Korea have free will. They can make choices about what they're choosing to do. They might be in a government. I don't know because I've never been in North Korea, but based on what people say, they might have a government that is making decisions in a certain way, but that individual in North Korea has a choice to make. They can stay there or they can choose to escape. But even choosing to leave, yeah, they could potentially be killed as they choose to leave, right? So these are all choices and decisions that we make. Where we're born in the world, in terms of what world we're born into, and what situation we're born into, is based on our past life karma, based on the decisions that we made. And now we're being reborn into a particular location in this world that is going to, we're going to experience certain results. So each individual, whether you're born in a rich family or a family that lacks resources, whether you're born in North Korea or Australia or any of this stuff, this is all based on your decisions that you've made. So you always have a choice. As soon as you think that you don't have a choice, now you feel like you're stuck. But you always have a choice to do things. It's just like the same kind of thing. Like if you were in a relationship where someone was abusive and physically hurting you, you have a choice, right? You can leave. Even if this person has all your money, it's just... I suggest you let me talk. What did you say? That you don't have any choice? Could you use the mic?
Yes, like in relationships, like in chat, like here in town, you have choice, but like people from Afghanistan, Pakistan, they don't have any choice.
They do have choice.
They will kill them, they just kill them.
They can choose to leave, right? They might not have the resources to do that, but that's an obstacle that was created based on their past life karma. Right? You're not going to see 100% of what I'm sharing with you in just one conversation. So what you'll need to do is ask questions, listen to the guidance, listen to the teachings, and you're going to need to think about it. You're going to need to reflect on it because your mind doesn't see the natural law of Kamma clearly. That's the ignorance, that's the unknowing of true reality, that's the lack of wisdom. But in order to get to that point where you see the wisdom, you're going to need to ask questions, listen, and then reflect on what is being shared. And you're not going to be able to see it 100%. It oftentimes takes people lots and lots of conversations choose to be able to see the natural law of Kamma very clearly. But you're not stuck. You're not without choices. You have choices to make. And there are certain obstacles that makes choices either easier or more challenging. But at the end of the day, every being has a choice to make. And you just need to be able to see that. And it's not going to take you time to see that where you are right now. You're not maybe seeing that right now. But if you look at it, you can see it. More questions?
How can we use the concept of karma to explain our initial stage in this life? For example, where we're born into, what kind of family, which country, which area in the world. So all these are like initial settings or original settings of our individuals. So more than that, furthermore, another question would be,
Let me answer one at a time.
Okay, because I think these questions may be linked. So is there maybe karma in our last life and before this life? So maybe the karma in the last life affect our initial stage in this life. Yeah.
So my mind only focuses on one thing at a time. So can you repeat your first question? Because once you ask the second question, I only focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah. So my first question would be how to use karma to explain our initial settings in this world.
Alright, so the first thing is the word you said the concept of karma. It's important not to see it as a concept, because a concept means that it may or may not be true. But by the time you independently verify the natural law of Kamma, you'll see that it's true 100%. So I know the natural law of Kamma is true 100%. It's not a concept to me. It's a natural law. It's clear as day, just like gravity. I can see it just as clear as day, right? But not a person who doesn't have the wisdom of the natural law of Kamma. They're not going to be able to see it clear as day because they haven't done the research and the investigation, examination, the reflection, and the practice to be able to see it as clear as day. But that initial coming into the world as a human being, an individual is coming into the world because of their past lifetime. That had they gotten to enlightenment in their last life, they would never be reborn in this life. So someone using the examples that you had, like Afghanistan, North Korea, had they gotten to enlightenment in their previous life, they would have experienced this life. That's a choice that we make to either train our mind and get to enlightenment or not. So at the time of death, based on the level of pollution in your mind, is going to determine what happens next. If an individual's mind is completely purified and there's no pollutions in the mind whatsoever, they're not going to experience rebirth. Right? So there's no rebirth. But if an individual has pollution in their mind, the degree of pollution is going to determine what family or what realm, what location, what family, all these other decisions. So this is all happening from the accumulation of decisions from all of our past lives. And now at the end of that life, prior to this one, now the condition of the being's mind at that point is what determined this life. And now in this life, now you're starting to make decisions from birth, and the individual starts making decisions that ultimately lead to what's going to happen in this life. And now if you get to enlightenment in this life and you see that your mind's actually getting more peaceful, more joyful, you get to the point where it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, there's no discontentedness in the mind whatsoever. You'll know that you fully purified your mind and you've completely exhausted all your unwholesome Kamma. Because part of the unwholesome Kamma that everyone is experiencing in the unenlightened state, because of its craving, because of its anger and ignorance, is discontentedness. Because of those pollutions, an individual will experience guilt and shame and sadness and frustration and agitation and annoyance and all these other discontent feelings. So those initial things that are put into motion, it's all from an accumulation from past life decisions. And choosing not to get to enlightenment means there's going to be rebirth. But if you choose to get to enlightenment, then you won't experience that. And then the second one.
Thank you for answering. I think you just explained my second question as well. As there is past life, the life before this one, and then there will be the future life as well, right? So, maybe
teach this for a reason, because he doesn't declare whether there is something next or there isn't something next. So let's just say there is something next, even though the Buddha never taught this, but let's just say there was something next, right? Let's just say it's really wonderful. And let's just say he explains what that is, right? Well, now, in the present moment, your mind's longing, yearning for that. You're not content and peaceful in the present moment. Your mind's craving for an afterlife. And now you can't get to enlightenment now because your mind is actually craving that next thing. Right? So you're stuck in this infinite loop where you keep craving that extra thing and you can't ever escape out of this and get to that because you're still craving that. So the Buddha wisely left this as an undeclared teaching. He never said there is something next or there isn't something next. He just left it undeclared. And by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is so peaceful and joyful now in the present moment, you don't care what's next. It doesn't matter what's next. There may or may not be something next, but you're not going to have a care at that point, because if there is something next, it's either as good as what you're currently experiencing or better. And if there isn't something next, okay, so what? So this path isn't about an afterlife. It's about getting to a wonderful life now, a peaceful life now in the present moment.
Yeah, guys, some people may believe that if we do good things in this life, then we will go to heaven or something like that in the next life. So actually Buddha's beliefs are against this kind of hope, right? Because it's still craving.
The Buddha doesn't teach any belief. He doesn't teach you to believe anything at all. He helps you to be able to see true reality. And the goal isn't to believe a bunch of things and then get to heaven after this, because heaven is not permanent. It's impermanent, just like everything else around us is impermanent. So even if someone is reborn in the heavenly world, they're still in the cycle of rebirth. They still have to get out of that, because in the heavenly realm, it's not actually an ideal existence, because those beings experience exclusively pleasant feelings, and they tend to be complacent. They tend to not do the work to get out of the cycle of rebirth, so they're usually more often reborn into the lower realms or back in the human realm, and now they're still in the cycle of rebirth. So getting to heaven isn't what the Buddha taught, because it's still it's still in the cycle of rebirth. It's an impermanent existence, and you still need to get out. You're still experiencing discontent in this. What he's teaching you to do is escape out of the cycle of rebirth through training your mind in this life. And if you do that work, you can actually see that it's working. By the time you get to enlightenment, you know with 100% certainty that these teachings are true, and you can see what's happened for your mind in your life. But the goal isn't to get to heaven, even though that's what other people might teach. Even within Buddhism, some people teach that, but that's not what the Buddha actually taught. So we can't really call those things Buddhism, because it's not what the Buddha actually taught.
Yeah, it's very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys how to extinguish your unwholesome karma by producing wholesome karma. It's the Eightfold Path that is going to extinguish all your unwholesome karma by producing only wholesome karma. When you're making decisions through the Eightfold Path, that is producing wholesome karma. So when you dial this in closer and closer to your life, that's what's going to produce the wholesome karma. And that's why when I taught that, I taught you to really investigate it and examine it and commit it to your memory, because you're not going to be able to make decisions through the Eightfold Path without committing it to your memory. You're going to need to be able to dial that in closer and closer. Every single factor of the Eightfold Path is going to take you time to first learn it and study it and remember it. Then it's going to take you time to practice it. It's going to take multiple years. It's not a 1 week thing. It's not a 1 month thing. Your mind didn't get in this condition in 1 week or 1 month, so it's not going to stop being in this condition in that short of a time. It's a multi-year journey. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment, so it's going to take you some time. But as you're making decisions through the Eightfold Path, more and more you're producing wholesome karma, and you're extinguishing all your unwholesome karma. So this unwholesome karma is coming back to you. This old unwholesome karma is coming back to you. You need to be able to then make wise decisions through the Eightfold Path that then produces wholesome karma for you. The way you might think about it is all throughout our life, we've been putting mud into this garden hose, right? We've been shoving mud into the garden hose. This is like our unwise decisions. But then somebody gets on the path to enlightenment, it's like hooking the garden hose up to the faucet and opening up the faucet. if you're coming to learn regularly, you're reading books, you're meditating, you're training your mind actively, you're consulting with a teacher, you're opening up the faucet, putting more and more wise decisions into this garden hose, you're putting more and more clean water into this garden hose. But this garden hose is going to spit mud for a while, right? Because you've made unwise decisions. So it's going to spit mud for a while. And then it's going to have some clean water eventually. But then it's going to spit some more mud, right? So it's going to be like mud, clean water, mud, clean water, clean water. Mud, clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, mud, clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, clean water, mud, clean water, clean water, right? You understand, right? It's going to slowly get rid of this mud through making more and more wise decisions through the Eightfold Path. And this is what you can experience. So I'm going to give you an example from my life so you can see how this works. So when I grew up in a very hostile and very harsh environment. It was very challenging to grow up in that type of environment. But nonetheless, my mind was conditioned to be pretty bitter and harsh and hostile. So for a period of my life, I was quite bitter and quite harsh and hostile. I remember being in a restaurant, at a fast food restaurant, and like the French fries didn't show up on our tray, and the family member that I was with yelled and hollered and screamed at the cashier to get our French fries, right? Instead of just, excuse me, ma'am, looks like we didn't get our French fries. I think we ordered French fries. Is it possible that we can get some French fries? No, that wasn't the way to handle it. It was yell and holler and scream, right? So this is how your mind gets conditioned based on your experience growing up, based on the people that are around you. We learn how to be human beings from other human beings. So if you grow up in that kind of environment where you see that your mind is going to get conditioned that way. So my mind was conditioned that way, right? To be kind of bitter and harsh and hostile growing up. If someone does something that you don't want them to do, you yell and holler and scream at them in order to get them to do what you want, right? So I did that to a certain degree. And of course, certain parts of my life, I was friendly and kind and gentle and polite, especially early on in relationships. Right? That's the way that we usually function. We're in that honeymoon phase of a relationship, and we're all on our best behavior. But then over time, that kind of falls away, and we kind of resort to whatever's going on in our mind. So when I first met my wife, of course, I was in my best behavior, right? Like that's what we do. We're in the honeymoon phase. But then at some point, all of that kind of slips away. And now I start being a little bit bitter and harsh and hostile, and slowly but surely, that's what comes in, right? So over a period of time of us being together, I was polite and friendly to a certain degree, but then I was also bitter and harsh and hostile in certain situations. So after 11 years of doing this, where I was bitter, harsh, and hostile in some cases and friendly in others, I decided I was interested in real significant change in my life. And I've been kind of working on some things along the way, but after 11 years of our relationship, I really buckled down and really started making some changes. And as I was doing that, and my mind was peaceful, my mind was calm, I was being polite, kind, respectful, my wife was still being bitter, harsh, and hostile with me. This was my unwholesome karma coming back to me, my old unwholesome karma. I couldn't get to a peaceful, joyful mind and a peaceful, joyful life without experiencing that unwholesome karma. So there would be times where I would come home completely peaceful, completely joyful, not a thought in the world, and just be completely friendly, and I would walk in and she would just start yelling at me, right? And in the past, what I would do is I would get on my back. I'd be bitter, harsh, and hostile right back. But I understood that if I did that, I was just producing more unwholesome karma. And that was the last thing I was interested in doing, is putting more mud into my garden hose. I'm trying to put fresh water into this garden hose. So when I would come home and she would be yelling and hollering at me, I would just walk away. I would just walk away. Right? Not the proper time to talk. Just walk away. Right? So I would walk away. I did that for a while. Right? And then as I started gaining more and more discipline, more control over my mind, sometimes she'd be yelling and hollering at me. And I would sit there and I would listen to her. And she would be done yelling with me. And I would say, okay, dear. And I would wire and I would walk away. Right? And then sometimes I would come home and she would yell and holler. And she would tell me how bad of a husband I was and all these other things. And I was like, you're right, I was. You're right, I did do all those things. Yeah, that was really unwise of me. I shouldn't have done those things. That was really unwise. I was a terrible husband. after a year, and it was getting farther and farther away. And now it's been 5, 6 years, 7 years. No hostility, no bitterness, nothing. Her and I, we don't argue, we're not yelling and hollering at each other, we're not upset with each other. Where in the past, when we would have a disagreement, it was a fight until death. Right? That's how the unenlightened mind works with the life partner. Right? You have a craving, they have a craving, you want to prove that you're right and they're wrong, and now it's a fight to death, like two animals, because that's how the unenlightened mind functions. Even though we're humans, we function very much like animals in the unenlightened state, where it's like a fight to death, right? And I chose to not do that anymore, right? I chose this better way of life, and now she was doing that as well. So now we're at the point where, of course, we have disagreements where she has one way that she's interested in doing something, and I have a different way. That's impermanence, that's normal. But now, because there's no craving, we can just sit down and talk. We can have a discussion, and I can listen to her ideas, and she can listen to my ideas, and then we make a decision, and we walk away from the conversation with a decision, either a joint decision, or we've come to two individual decisions. And now there's no arguments, there's no frustration, there's no yelling or anything like that. There's no anger whatsoever, right? Because I've extinguished all that in awesome Kamma. But then I had to go even further, because I was noticing my son at the age of 6 was starting to have a bad relationship with his mom. He was talking to her in bitter and harsh and hostile ways, because his mind was conditioned. He saw dad doing that growing up, and that's what he was doing. So now not only did I need to extinguish that awesome Kamma with my wife, I needed to extinguish it with my son, because I wasn't interested in him having this turbulent relationship with his mom. So now I needed to teach him the teachings of the Buddha so that he could improve his relationship with his mom. And then that's what I did. And now it's been the same thing for them 5, 6 years. They haven't had a harsh word between the two of them. They're just nothing but love and kindness and warmth and gentleness in all of their relationships. Not only in my immediate family with my wife and my son, but even my extended family. People don't put expectations on me. People don't yell and holler and be bitter with me. People aren't frustrated and agitated or annoyed. Everything's completely peaceful in all the relationships that I have. They're very harmonious. But I needed to do the work on my own mind first, and then I needed to extinguish my unwholesome Kamma coming back to me. I had to experience that. It's kind of like you have to walk through the fire in order to appreciate the fresh air on the other side. I had to walk through that fire. I had to walk through that unwholesome Kamma that I generated. Another way to think about it is it's like getting out of the mafia, right? You get into the mafia, wow, you got all these pleasant feelings, you got all these new friends, these new ways to make money, wow, it feels great. But now when you get out of the mafia, it's really painful, right? And now, once you get out though, and you're fully out, wow, you're free, right? So I had to walk through that pain, I had to walk through those difficult times in order to get to the other side where the peace and joy is. So you're going to need to walk through the fire in order to appreciate the fresh air on the other side, right? But it starts with you understanding the Eightfold Path and practicing that closely. And now, as old, unwholesome Kamma is coming back to you, because that's what was happening when my wife is yelling and hollering at me. In the present moment, I was creating new wholesome Kamma by choosing to function through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. Because that's what you're going to need to do, is practice through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, where in the past I wasn't doing that. And that's what's going to extinguish all your unwholesome Kamma. So you're going to have unwholesome Kamma. Things are going to come back to you. Even if you could snap your fingers today and instantly practice the teachings of the Buddha perfectly, which you can, you're still going to experience this old unwholesome Kamma coming back to you. But now in the present moment, you need to make wise decisions based on the Eightfold Path so you can produce new wholesome Kamma. And now you keep doing that more and more and more and more and more. All of a sudden, there's no more mud in your garden hose. You've got fresh water, and you've put so many wise decisions into the garden hose. So any questions on extinguishing your unwholesome Kamma? Yes, ma'am.
Is it necessary to remember? Because I'm sure that sometimes we create unwholesome Kamma without this information. We don't know that we've created it.
So what you tend to do as you're moving to this higher consciousness is you start being able to see over your life more of the decisions that you are making in say you have a personal relationship like a boyfriend or girlfriend or an ex-husband or an ex-wife. You don't need to go back and fix that, right? Because you're not going to be in a relationship with them anymore, right? So if you've had a relationship where you didn't do so well, let's just say you even physically abused the person, maybe even hit them or something like this, you don't have to go back and make amends with that person in order to get to enlightenment. The way that you're actually going to extinguish that unwholesome karma is that you've ended the relationship and you've moved on, and now you've headed on. If this was a money thing, that I had harmed somebody and they were out of money, and now I needed to make amends for that. I needed to take care of that. Otherwise, this was some karma that would just be sitting there and it wouldn't have gotten extinguished unless I took action to do it. So I used to do some bad things when I was younger. That's why this first book is so thick, right? Because it's me talking about all the things that I used to do, right? That's how I know the natural law of Kamma, because I've seen it, I've tested it, right? I've done everything in this book except for 4 things. I've never had sex with an animal, right? I've never had sex with someone of the same gender, even though that doesn't produce unwholesome karma. I've never raped anybody, and I've never killed anybody. I've never killed a human being. Right? Those are the 4 things that I've never done. Other than that, I've done all of that stuff pretty much. That's in there. Right? That's why the book's so thick. And that's why I know the natural law of Kamma, because I saw the unwholesome results that it was producing. So I had to test it. I had to investigate. That's what I told my wife when she was telling me all these things that I did wrong. I was like, I was just investigating the natural law of Kamma. Right? I just needed to see it for myself so that I can teach you guys how to know it. Alright, so now we've got one more thing. Oh, you got a question? Okay.
I'm wondering if eating animals meat will it produce unwholesome karma?
In general, yes. We were talking about this yesterday, where animal flesh has, hormones, toxic drugs, things like this. So in general, yes, if you would like to get rid of animal products. But the thing is that because many of us have eaten animal products for a long time, the idea of getting to a point where your body is no longer dependent on it, there's going to be some people who are going to need to have some amount of animal products in order to sustain their life, and it wouldn't be loving kindness and compassion for this being to allow this being to die, right? So what an individual might choose to do is, as they're learning and practicing these teachings and their loving kindness is increasing, is they might choose to move to a plant-based food supply, maybe use some supplements if they can, and then see how that works for them. And some people, that's all they'll need, but for other people, they might notice, and I'm one of them, that I want to decisions, and then there's a consciousness or the mind. And a plant doesn't have all five of these, it only has one, which is physical form. So I walk students through this and help them to be able to see that, because we use language like, don't kill that plant, or I'm going to kill this plant. You're not actually killing it because it's not a living being. What you're doing is you're harvesting this broccoli. And you can see this through the five aggregates, but you can also see it through the natural law of Kamma. Because if you're causing harm to a living being, that harm is going to come back to you. So if I went outside and I harvested a broccoli, there's no harm that's coming to me from that. So you can see through the natural law of Kamma that you haven't actually harmed a living being, otherwise you would experience unwholesome results. And you can also see it through the five aggregates as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now one more thing related to the natural law of Kamma. Sometimes when people hear me teaching this, you need to ask questions like what you asked, or they'll ask other questions like this, where they'll say, hold on, David, hold on a second, this natural law of Kamma, wasn't there situations where people like murder someone and they went to court and they were found not guilty? Didn't they run and hide from their Kamma? You said you can't run and hide from your Kamma, but that person went to court and they were found not guilty for the murder, but yet they didn't experience anything here. And the answer is no, that person still experienced their Kamma. You can't run and hide. So if to say somebody's bloody footprint is at the murder scene, let's just say the bloody murder weapon is under their bed, they have blood all over their car, and they go to court and they're found not guilty. This person still is experiencing their Kamma. The thing is that the laws of society are imperfect, and the laws of society isn't the natural law of Kamma. This is the laws of society. This is human laws. Humans are imperfect because they have craving, anger, and ignorance, so they're going to make decisions in an unwise way. So going to court, you could be found not guilty, but that's not all your Kamma. Going to prison isn't your 100% of your Kamma. There's other things that you're experiencing as well. And unless you look at all these other things, you'll be like, look, this person ran and hid from their Kamma. This natural law of Kamma isn't true, right? Well, this isn't the case. You're just not looking at the full totality of what this person is experiencing. So the human laws, the laws of society are imperfect, but the natural law of Kamma is perfect. It's functioning all the time, and you're going to experience the results of your decisions regardless. So here's some things that person will experience whose bloody foot was at the murder scene. The bloody murder weapon was under their bed. There was blood all over their car. And they went to court and they were found not guilty. Okay? They're still experiencing their Kamma because they're going to have a bad reputation in the community. Right? People have found out that this person is accused of murder, and it was all over the news that the bloody murder weapon was under their bed, that they had blood all over their car, there was this bloody footprint. They're going to have this bad reputation. They also can experience sickness, disease, physical and mental pain, as well as a shortened lifespan, right? The way that this kind of thing is occurring is that if you have enough craving, anger, ignorance in your mind to kill another individual, then your mind has a significant amount of pollution in the mind, right? And now that mind that is having all that stress and anxiety and guilt and shame and fear, it's going to put more challenges on the physical body, right? The heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, all of these different things. This is all going to get strained because of what's going on in the mind. This is how an individual experiences the cause and effect of decisions that they're making, that you experience a shortened lifespan or sickness or disease or physical or mental pain. Also, if they had enough craving, anger, and ignorance in their mind to kill another human being out of that anger, they're going to have a certain amount of hostility, aggression, fights, and potentially be killed themselves, because it's not like this is the one relationship in their life that was going miserable and all of the other relationships in their life were perfect, right? They're having difficulties in all these other relationships in their life too. So they're experiencing this hostility and aggression and fights, and can even potentially be killed themselves. They're going to have a loss of income and wealth, because going to court to defend yourself on a murder charge is very expensive. So they're going to lose a certain amount of money and wealth as a result. in relationships. Like I mentioned, if they're having difficulties in this relationship or they're needing to kill this person, or they chose to kill this person, all their other relationships are having difficulties too, and they're going to have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. They're going to have difficulty securing and progressing in employment. They're going to have difficulty securing and progressing in terms of housing, right? If you had an ad out in the public for advertising for a roommate to come live in your house, and this person who went to court and the whole community knows was accused of murder, but they were found not guilty, are you going to let them live in your house? Is that the person you're going to select when you have 3, 4, 5 people applying to be able to live with you? Are you going to pick the murderer, the person who's been accused of murder? No, probably not, right? So they're going to have difficulties securing housing, and they're going to have difficulties acquiring the basic necessities to sustain their life because they're having lots of income, difficulties to get employment and things of this nature. And then discontentedness and rebirth itself is unwholesome karma, walking around with guilt and shame and fear in your mind, right? This person hasn't escaped that, they're still experiencing that. And then if they don't purify their mind by the time they get to death, rebirth itself is part of the unwholesome karma that one is experiencing. So you can't let it hide from your karma. The laws of society, they're imperfect. Now, we should always work to create and maintain and enforce laws more equitably and more fairly across all people. But the fact is because human beings' minds have greatly ignorant ignorance, they're going to be imperfect, right? The laws that are created and enforced, they're not going to be enforced fairly because of the imperfect nature of human beings. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't aspire to always continue to do that better and better, because we should. But the fact is that we're never going to get to a time where the human laws are perfect and they're administered perfectly. So in a situation where there's a big court case in the public eye, and you think this person is guilty and they're found not guilty, you don't need to be upset about that. You don't need to be angry about that. That person's still going to experience their karma. They can't really hide from it. And there's also situations where people are actually not guilty and they go to court and they're found guilty, right? Because that's part of the difficulties with the human laws too. Sometimes people are not guilty and they're actually found guilty, right? So let me give you an example of this. Let's just say that I grew up in a gang, all throughout my life I was running around with this gang, and I was doing all kinds of unwise things. Let's just say I was selling drugs, I was murdering, I was doing all these kinds of things, and I never got caught for any of these things. But by the age of 25, I'm choosing to get out of the gang. I'm letting know what I'm done with this. I'm not interested in being around it anymore, and I choose to get out of the gang. And now I'm maybe 26, 27 years old. And then let's just say the gang goes out and does a murder, and I wasn't even there because I wasn't part of the gang. But now somehow the murder gets pinned on me, and I've been away from the gang for a year or two. And now I go to court and I'm found guilty, even though I wasn't even there. I didn't even participate in the gang for a year or two. Well, this is me experiencing the results of my decisions, because there's murders that I did do, and that's selling of drugs that I did do that I never got caught for and I never experienced any particular results of going to jail. Now I'm going to jail on this one that I didn't actually do, right? So these are things that can happen as well. So everything that's happening in the world is this cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Everyone's going to experience their karma. You're not going to be able to see other people's karma 100%, but you will be able to see yours. The more awake that you become to this natural law, you'll be able to see it more clearly. And when you're having unwholesome karma coming back to you, this old unwholesome karma, in the present moment, you need to make new decisions that is going to produce new wholesome karma. And now that's how you extinguish all your unwholesome karma. So essentially, you're bringing your life up to the Eightfold Path. You're working to bring it up to that level, and then you maintain that for an extended period of time where you're practicing the Eightfold Path for multiple years. And this is what's going to produce enlightenment, because you will extinguish all your unwholesome karma by producing only wholesome karma. So any questions you guys have on the Natural Law of Kamma?
Yeah, this is more like a curiosity, but because we talk about as hell? Is there something that bad that would cause a person not to be reborn as a human?
It's not that there's some being that's overlooking your life and each thing that you do in life and then deciding what happens. It's based on the condition of your mind at the time of death. So for example, I think when you were here when I was talking about during the lifetime of the Buddha, there was someone who murdered 999 people during their life that lived during the lifetime of the Buddha. They started learning with the Buddha and training their mind, and they actually got to enlightenment in that life. They extinguished all their Natural Law of Kamma. So at that point, that individual escaped the cycle of rebirth. They didn't go to hell, right? So it's not like there's the totality of your life or one particular incident in your life that is going to produce a certain result. It's that, in terms of rebirth, it's that what is the condition of your mind at the time of death. And even though you've done all these unwise things in the past, you can extinguish all those pollutions that led to that and get to the point where you're not going to experience any rebirth anymore. So it's not like at 25 years old, you murdered someone, so therefore you're going to go to hell when you die at the age of 70. It's not like that. It's based on the condition of your mind at the time of death. That's what's going to determine rebirth.
Okay, yeah, I understand this. It's more like because I was curious when you mentioned the example about this person like who ended up going to prison, that if they do not choose, like if their mind is in a low state, right, they will be still reborn. But then, because the other day you mentioned this concept of realm of like heaven and hell, so I just wonder like who lives there, like which kind of being gets to go, okay, not go or to be sent, but to be reborn based on their state of mind. It's just a very hypothetical question.
Yeah, so I teach about the realms when we get to chapter 20 of the group learning program, which this week we're going to be in chapter 15, so it's only 5 weeks away, and it's also been recorded many times, so if you'd like to learn about the 5 realms, I teach it in chapter 20. I don't have it in the book, but when I teach the class, I teach the 5 realms of existence and what you experience in each realm and how an individual experiences each one of those realms. So that would be a better time for you to learn it because you need to understand more than just a 2-minute conversation. Yeah. Okay, so it's 11 o'clock essentially, so we're going to take a break up until 11:15, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to teach you the next topic, which is what is merit and continued support on the path to enlightenment. So enjoy your break, and then I'll see you guys at 11:15.